Welcome into Jets Nation Radio, sponsored by Betway. Make sure you like and subscribe to Jets Nation Radio so you never miss a podcast. Welcome into Jets Nation Radio. I'm Angus Hout. As always, Jets Nation Radio is brought to you by Betway. So if you want to make some NHL futures bets, bet on the CFL, Betway. Ray, how's it going?
It's going good, going good. Seeing some Jets news come out a little bit today, so that's always nice to see the Jets in the news,
It is,
hopefully.
especially when it's not about the Jets being completely sucky. So, yeah, Rasmus Kupari signing 2 years for $1 million per. How do you feel about this
Yeah.
deal?
I think this deal is pretty good. We think of last year when we saw Kevin Stenlund come up into the NHL. Like, I feel like Kupari's that Stenlund replacement in a way where he's a younger, more like he's a more skillful guy, and it makes a lot more sense that we didn't keep Stenlund. Like, it kind of made me question why we didn't keep him when like he was in the AHL to start the year, and then we saw what his big body and could bring. And now we basically just have like the same thing in a younger player that could be even better than what Stenlund is. So I think it's a great deal, and you get it for 2 years. So you're keeping the RFA rights, and I feel like he's going to be hungry to prove that LA was right to pick him, but wrong to trade him. So
So let's see that
yeah,
extra fire for $1 million. And on your fourth line, you got a centerman. And I believe his faceoffs was something like 54%, something pretty good like
yeah.
that. So, you continue to grow and you help that fourth line do its thing. And if it does what it did last year when it was really rolling, man, that bottom six of the Jets, it's going to be unreal.
Yeah, and I wouldn't exactly rule out like even in that second year, like he could be someone that you don't really expect to be like a lot of people are gonna have him penciled in on that fourth line center spot. But if he starts to grow his game, like he could elevate his game to being on that third line. Like imagine like next year a third line of Morgan Barron, Kupari and Lowry. Like I feel like that line with the size and skill that they would be able to have, I feel like that line would be really great to see. Even if we don't see it this year, I feel like that's a line that I want to see at some point to just roll out.
That would be a big, mean line that would just dummy people left, right, and center. Next year is going to be fantastic to watch. But at the same time, a lot of guys are going to either really, really regress because it's their contract year, or they are going to put everything they've got into it. And Kevin Cheveldayoff might have backed himself into a corner with these 2 year deals that are all going to basically everyone's contracts are expiring in 2 years or the year after.
Mhm.
So it might be the best and the worst year to be a Jets fan next year, is kind of what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, I feel like the Jets kind of have like a new window per se. Like next year was said to be the window because that's when we had no more Dubois RFA rights. We had Scheifele, Hellebuck, Blake Wheeler all expiring, and like now it's kind of the same window in a way where we extend it 1 year. So it's like we almost made the window that was next year ending into like three separate windows where it's like in 2 years you're gonna have to pay Kupari, you're gonna have to pay Barron, you're gonna have to pay Sandberg. I'm pretty sure that might be when you have to pay Ehlers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
He has 2 years, so like, and then you have that 3 year Kyle Connor out there. So like he's his own kind of like with how important he is to the team, he's his own uh type of year, like contract year wise, where it's like even though there's not many players expiring in that 3 year span, like it's its own kind of window there for Kyle Connor and what direction the Jets go with him.
You know what? I honestly don't see Kyle Connor re-signing in Winnipeg at the end of his at the end of this contract. Not because I
Yeah.
like it's just that American way. Like all those Michigan guys, like I wouldn't be shocked if he isn't a Jet. It feels like he's got one more city in him. So if everyone's just like, yeah, we want Kyle Connor to re-sign here, of course you do. But I don't know. My gut tells me one thing, and I'm going with it. Um, the Jets, they've got $2.7 million left in cap space. And what does that do? Like, what do the Jets do with that money? Are they going to hold on to it till cap deadline day? Is
Yeah,
Logan
I
Stanley
feel like
getting a
the
sweet payday? What's happening?
yeah, I think the Jets are probably going to hold on to that money. Like, not like you don't want to be a team that's right up against the cap. Like when you're exactly at the cap, like the flexibility there, and like when someone is injured and you have to call up players, send down players, like that's not really fun when you have a max, like you're up against the max right there. So I think keeping that cap for flexibility and come deadline, you can use it to make a couple moves or maybe take on a contract or something like that. But having that cap allows us to have that 23-man roster. Like you don't have to do any shenanigans where you can't roster that full 23-man roster. And so it just gives the team a lot of flexibility and who can be up with the team if there's injuries and how they can really make their roster.
Hmm. You don't think they're gonna just surprise us all and just go like, hey, you know what? We deserve a Patrick Kane here in Winnipeg. Maybe he wants to win one more cup with Connor Hellebuck manning the net.
Yeah, that's like
A man likes a dream, right?
that's a take right there.
That is, but
Came
I
to
mean,
the
how unbelievable would this team be with even veteran Patrick Kane?
his defense is probably not going to be the greatest. And I don't know. He's coming off a major surgery, so you don't know what Patrick Kane you're going to be getting. And any team that signs him is going to look like a great deal just based on the cap hit and what he should provide. But again, like Patrick Kane, there's a reason why he hasn't signed a contract now because teams want to wait it out, and he probably wants to wait it out too to see what teams are doing good and what team has the best fit for him.
I don't know, but you get that leadership quality out of that guy. I mean, three-time Stanley Cup winner. That's got to speak to something. You look at what Duncan Keith did for Evan Bouchard with the Oilers a few years back. It might not be an ideal situation, but a guy, I guess Cole Perfetti wouldn't be a great guy to learn under or to learn from Kane. But I don't know. I just want to believe in something silly here. We got $2.7 million. You know, Logan Stanley, I'm sorry you didn't want to sign your $1 million contract. We got ourselves a shiny Patrick Kane. And Logan Stanley can be the AHL All Star in this situation too. So, everyone wins. Um, Mark Scheifele, last couple seasons, would you say he's kind of quiet quit? Is that a correct term to use for him?
I feel like he's the type of player where he's not quietly quitting. Like you wouldn't like with all the noise he made last year and how he had to take like change like go to the media and say like I didn't mean to like I think he had an interview with some of the Jets media or something like that. So I don't think he's quietly quitting. I think he's heavily just weighing his options and he doesn't know if the Jets are the team that like he's been with the Jets from when he's been drafted in 2011 all the way till now. That's 12 years that Mark Scheifele has been a Winnipeg Jet, and I think he wants to heavily weigh those options on if he should be a Jet for life or if he should explore other options available to him. So I feel like he's not wrong for trying to see what other teams and other opportunities he may have elsewhere and how that could financially set him up as
Mm.
well. So I feel like Sheffield is an interesting case where he might want more money and the Jets may be willing to pay that, but it may like the Jets could pay like 9 million, but he might take less just to have a different opportunity that might be available to him next year.
Yeah. Well, especially like, how long are we waiting until the cap goes up here? Because if it only goes up another $1 million, like that's trying to squeeze Shifley into somebody's budget. That's gonna be pretty tough, even if it is,
Yeah.
$7.5 million or something like that. Um, but the guy should be earning at least 9 schmil if he has another 40 goal
Hmm.
season like he did. Uh, do you think he kind of changes his mindset within the team? Like I know you kind of talked about his future and where he belonged with the team, but like just his day to day. Do you think without Wheeler he's gonna maybe loosen up a little bit?
I feel like he's like almost has to loosen up a bit because he's always been that guy that's like been like you're talking about Blake Wheeler's leadership abilities. You're always looping in Mark Scheifele on that as well. So I think this year I feel like he's gonna take a look in the mirror and see, hey, like this is a contract year, and I can go and prove that to everyone that Blake Wheeler was majority of that issue that was present and make a name for himself being, yeah, I am a leader and I am someone that can be trusted. So I feel like he's got a lot to prove this year and he's got a reason to prove it with that contract year as well.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just the way that Bonus kind of called him out a couple times towards the end of the last season, or the team in general, you gotta think that leaves a little bit of an extra mark on you just to be like, yeah, I feel like I do need to step it up a little bit more, or quietly quit, as we have said. Do the Jets have a captain opening night?
Oh, that's tough. Like, as much as I would love to see them have a captain, I feel like this year is a year where you just had Blake Wheeler, who was like a pseudo captain of the team last year, and you finally moved on from him. I think this is the year where you still go without a captain, but you see who emerges in that locker room and who really becomes a voice. Like I'm not saying that like Morrissey or Lowry, if one of those two got named captain, that I'm like, oh, they shouldn't have named the captain. It's I feel it's more that the team should have that mentality that they had last year, where it's a team like a team mentality, like all voices can be heard and not one voice is more important than the other. So I feel like this year is a really great year where there's a lot of younger players too. So like having these younger players have a voice and maybe like someone like Velarde, like maybe Velarde is someone that really vocalizes in the room and maybe he's an option there. So I feel like having a no captain this year would probably be better than naming a captain in some way.
Ooh, I like it. I like that a lot. Let's just say hypothetically, we get to the dance, we punch our ticket, we get to hoist the mug. Who gets to touch it first?
Hmm. Um, it's probably between Lowry and Morrissey, to be honest.
Ooh.
It probably
See,
just because Lowry, like, I don't know.
yeah, like
Maybe have like a
those are obviously your cap. One of those two guys is your captain.
yeah.
Um, see, and just personally, just because like I sit in that goalie guild, I think it'd be Connor Hellebuck who gets to touch it first. Just because like
I
you've
I
never had a goaltender, hoist the cup. And they're the backbone for almost every playoff series. If your goalie's not 1000% in it and 1000% good to go, odds are you're not winning. So
yeah.
2024, Connor Hellebuck lifts the cup. I'm calling it right now, there, guys. Axel Johnson Fialvi's been practicing with some pretty outstanding talent with like Aaron Ekblad, Jasper Brott, just the best of the best in Sweden. Uh, is he gonna take another step forward and potentially find himself in the top 12?
Yeah, so like with the signing of Kupari, like that fourth line, like right now, like is gonna have Barron and Kupari on that line. And then you're gonna have that fourth line other spot basically between a toss-up of Gustafsson and Axel Jonsson Fjallby. So I feel like it's as much as I want to say that he is a better player, because he is the older and more experienced player than Gustafsson was and had a better year last year. I think that the Jets are gonna rotate it and like if something's not working on that fourth line, then maybe say Axel comes out, Gustafsson in, and then say injuries happen, then you move up Aaron and you have Gustafsson and Axel on that fourth line. So I feel like they're pretty even to me in what they would bring on that fourth line. I feel like Axel would bring a lot more speed and forechecking, and Gustafsson a little bit more physicality on the forecheck. So it really just depends on what would make that fourth line more complete. I know Barron and Kupari, if they're on that fourth line, they have some pretty big bodies. I think Barron's 6'4" and Kupari's 6'3". So it's
Six
like
two.
I 6'2", yeah. So like I feel like having someone like Axel on that fourth line over Gustafsson would be better in terms of the chemistry and like just stylistically that having Axel's speed on that line would really help. But I'm not sure if the Jets would want to have Gustafson sitting on the bench every night when the team's fully healthy as well. So I think it's a conundrum that the Jets are in, and it's a good conundrum because then it's going to create competition where Axel, Bjornsson, Fjallby, and Gustafson, they're not guaranteed a spot. Like last year, they were pretty much subbed into the lineup, and there wasn't any question like, oh, who are you going to take out for that? You're going to have like Christian Reichel play? Like no. So I feel like it really makes the bottom six players have a more competitive environment and really earn each minute that they get.
And I forgot about how injured that team was last year. Like that we were just throwing everyone at the wall that could play to play a couple of minutes when Ehlers was out. So yeah, it made top six injury could mean that Gus gets in and maybe even I don't know. Axel Johnson Fiala is kind of starting to play a little bit more of a defensive game from what I saw a little bit. He's got that longer stick now. So I don't know. I think he works better as the fourth liner over Gus, but we'll see what happens come October. Okay. A little bit more of a fun question. If you were to join a Jets foursome for a golf tournament, who would you want as your three Jets to join you?
Um, Number one, I'd probably want like I'm probably just gonna pick the two captains. I feel like having Adam Lowry and Josh Morrissey there, like just how like character they are. Like I'm not gonna pick prospects. Like as much like if I could, I would probably just choose Brad Lambert, Rutger McGurty, and Colby Barlow because they've had some golfing pictures out there. So but if I'm choosing current NHL Jets, I feel like it has to be Lowry and Morrissey, just because of I feel they would be really good, but like they would still like have a chat and like have a good time. And then I know this person doesn't golf, but I like it would make me feel better because I'm not good at golf. So I'd bring Nikki Ehlers there, so we can like he would still probably be better, but like again, like it would be nice to talk to him and I have someone at least somewhat close to my skill in golf there with me. So
Yeah, golf is way harder than everyone makes it seem. I've gone out with friends. I get through about six holes myself, and I'm like, yeah, this was cool, guys. I haven't had fun for the last hour. So I get you. Honestly, I'm gonna be cheap here because I want to win my tournament. I'm gonna go get myself Mark Scheifele, so that way we can all coast off of his greatness. Um, Mark Scheifele, and then I feel like I just want to hang out with like I want one defenseman, so Brennan Dillon would be my guy, and then LB. Those would be my three. So hopefully, Scheifele carries all of us, and the other three can enjoy the day,
yeah.
and I can tap out after my six holes because I don't have I don't have the patience or the shoulder strength to do anything golf related. Um, you had a good question here. Which Jet will have the biggest improvement in their play next season? So that includes points, impact, and leadership.
I think one player that I feel like is going to be relied on heavily now that there's the absence of Wheeler and Dubois in that top six is I feel like Perfetti is going to get a really good shot in that top six. He had was riddled with injuries last year. He was injured at two different points, and it just seemed like every single time he was in the lineup, like he was doing really good things with Wheeler and like Dubois or Wheeler and Scheifele. So it's like he was a really great player to see. And if he can take a step in his game and get like 50 plus points and be a good defensive player and be vocal in a locker room where he gets a chance to be part of that leadership, I feel like is going to really help his confidence in becoming a really great player in this league. So I feel like Perfetti is a player to really watch on this year with how he can improve on every facet of the game in terms of his points, impact, and leadership.
I think it's going to be Mark Scheifele. I think without Blake Wheeler in the room, he's going to have not the room to himself, but I think there's just going to be just that big dynamic change. I think he's going to finally figure it out and just take that next step forward in his game where we're like, okay, this is why you wanted to compare yourself to Sidney Crosby and Connor McDavid. in the earlier parts of your career. Because I do remember laughing at Mark Scheifele back in like 2016 or 17, and he was like, I'm going to be competing with Crosby and McDavid for top spot in this league. And then they drafted Line A. Oh no, that was the year that they brought Line A in. Never mind. Don't worry about it. I'm trying to be a dink. But yeah, no, I genuinely want to see Mark Scheifele just take that next step forward. And even if he's not that offensive phenom, I would just love to see him play a full 200-foot game all season long. So
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that in that for this team. Ray, that's all I've got this week.
Yeah.
So unless you got anything else, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at ray.how on Instagram. And if there's any questions you want to have featured on here, it's the off season. So there's a lot of questions that we could go over if you guys want to get involved.
But yeah, you can follow me, Angus Hout, on Instagram. If Twitter's still alive, I mean, cool. Follow me there, but I mean, I'm not going to be posting there much. Follow jetsnation.ca wherever you can find us on social media. We got to give a big shout out to Ava, who's been just hitting all the memes lately, and jetsnation.ca. We occasionally post there. Hopefully more this fall. Ray, you have a great week. I'll talk to you next. Do you want to take next week off?
Sure, we can take a week off.
Let's take next week off. Ray, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks, unless something fun happens, and then of course we'll talk. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, go Jets, go.
Go Jets, go. Peace and grace, friends.